This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Brilliant. What have you been watching lately? Or I know have you got any more competitions lined up?
I have a competition tomorrow coming, which I'm really looking forward to. The bit at the end when I get to have food and beer. The competition, not so much. But the end bit. There's always satisfying.
Are you going to win again?
That's the plan. That's the plan. We'll see. You can never tell. It can only take one thing, one mistake, or someone to do something really good, and you can lose. But that is always the mindset I have. I'm going to win. Whenever I envision the fights, I always envision. I have a very visual mind, and when I'm thinking about it, I never see any other outcome other than me winning.
That's good. For those of you who haven't been following us, this is not just sparring for fun that Alex does. It's jiu-jitsu. And he recently won a contest and had shared his medal with us. So that's why we think he's going to win again.
Yeah, that is the plan. But if I don't win, then it's fine as long as I learn why I didn't win and do better next time.
So the interesting thing about when you are training for because I've been through this with you for a couple of years now, right? Probably 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing for me is because when you're in normal mode, I'm going to call it normal mode, so not training mode, you actually eat and drink quite a lot, Alex, right? Like you're above average in terms of your consumption. But then when you're in training, you drop way down, right? And your consumption, you're really disciplined and you're good about what you eat and all that kind of stuff. In fact, I remember once you went vegetarian. I remember that before. Was it a boxing match? You went full on vegetarian, I think, for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was horrified. And then you went, as soon as you were finished, you had a beer and a beef burger, like straight after.
I think it was even more extreme. I think it was actually vegan.
You went full vegan. Oh my goodness, yes. I remember how hard it was to have any meals with you. But because you couldn't help me finish mine as you normally did.
No.
And that's you're one person. But similarly in marketing organizations, it would be I hope people take into account the cycles that their customers are going through, right? Because that affects how people consume your product.
Yeah, it's well, there's different cycles and different periods of people's lives and events, functions or world events or nature events. They're all big. They have a large impact on the behavior and the mindset of your customers.
Absolutely. I was having a conversation with someone this week where they were like, isn't it interesting how many people buy household insurance in January? And I said, it's not interesting. It's psychology, right? Yeah. January is New Year's resolution, get your house in order, make sure all insurance is big in January. It's because of that whole knock-on effect of New Year, starting clean, wanting to have your house in order. And so that is a common cycle in insurance, is January is a big month, right?
January is a brilliant month for any self-improvement, finance, sort your life out kind of products or services, right? It's the same with the gym.
Gym memberships increase in Jan.
Yeah.
I'm sure Joe Wicks and his online program saw a spike in Jan.
Is he still knocking about then?
Yeah, he's doing well. I think he's having his fourth kid now, Alex. You're a little bit behind.
Kid. Yeah, no, I'm nowhere near having a kid.
But so that cycle, the other one that's coming up here in the UK now is the summer holidays. It's
Mm,
quieter, right? For a lot of industries, it's quieter. Why? Because people are, well, not in the UK because there's no sun, but in theory, people are outdoors enjoying the sunshine, not indoors on the computers or doing
yeah,
admin, right? In
yeah,
theory.
back in the day when I was doing a lot of TV advertising in the UK, August was a terrible time for us.
Even when we did TV advertising across Europe, right?
True, that's true.
In fact,
That's true.
Greece was the worst. Remember, we couldn't even
Yeah,
find a printer open.
no, it's completely
It was
closed.
closed.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, because the well, in some
They
of the
moved
Mediterranean
totally.
countries,
They moved totally to tourism, right? All normal
yeah,
office jobs
yeah,
or no more.
yeah. It's the same in Italy as well. I think in some parts of Spain as well. I remember when we were trying to do some business in Italy,
Yeah,
and it so happened that the timing we were starting to do it around August, and we couldn't get hold of anybody.
yeah.
No one works in August. So there's huge, well, there's cultural, there's large events, there's life cycle moments that have a huge impact on the outcome of what you're doing, and then they're really important elements to understand. And but then it can be from it can be from a like a you can capitalize on those moments, and you can also use those moments to pull back on marketing, for example,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's
It
both
works
ways.
both ways.
Something you mentioned was life stages. So that's per individual, right? Because then you need to. I mean, all of this is about understanding your target audience and how they respond. But again, someone who is in their 20s, no kids, just starting out, very different to someone in their 50s, you know, kids,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, right, out of school, starting uni, whatever. Like it's chalk and cheese in terms of what those cycles are. My daughter, as you know, is just finishing up GCSEs. And so I know me and all parents like me for the last 2 months have not left. We haven't done anything. Like we've gone into retreat mode to create the most stable environment for our teenager to finish GCSEs with good marks. So, you
Yeah,
know,
it is.
anything around that would have sold really, really well. But if you were trying
Mhm.
to sell parties and things for
No,
her
it's
at
not
this
the right
stage,
time.
not going to happen. From
Yeah,
next week, oh yes,
yeah,
big time. But for this 2 months, no.
yeah, yeah. No, that's and I mean, well, with the advent of AI, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to be able to gather a lot more details of your customer and build personalized journeys for them, right?
Yeah.
Uh, as opposed to doing everything manually as before and sort of grouping everybody. Um, but like you're saying just then, if you by understanding your customer through various different interactions with them, and after a while finding out, have are they married, do they have kids, where they live, blah 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 blah, you can take advantage of that. For example, if it was you were a subscriber to a wine club or something, I don't know, maybe shouldn't be pumping you with adverts during this period, because like you said, you want to create a stable environment for your kids during the GCSEs,
Or
or
maybe I
maybe
need the wine.
maybe it's the other way around. Yeah.
Maybe I need the wine, but it's a different kind of wine, right? But if you have champagne, guess what? If I was selling champagne next week when all these parents are finished,
Exactly.
I would, and I'm saying parents are finished because it feels like it's the
Yeah.
parents writing the GCSEs, not the kids. But this is when I'd be sending it out, right? Oh, you do want to get ready for the, the results day. They've got the prom coming up. So now you can move into celebration mode, right?
Yeah, and then say we also have the low alcohol or non-alcohol version for your kids if you want them to join in celebrations.
Yeah. Well,
and
my son will tell you, I forced him to have champagne when he was 13. It was a Christmas lunch and I gave him a sip. This is the forcing that I did. And to this day, he remembers and tells everyone how his mother forced him to have alcohol. And because of that, he's apparently never, ever going to drink alcohol for the rest of his life. So I think I've won.
well, yeah, but I find that very hard to believe.
I don't know, what, that I forced him or that he's not going to drink?
No, I believe that you forced him.
I don't know, it's James. Once he's made up his mind, he's pretty stubborn. We'll see.
True. That's true.
Anyway, back to celebrating. The other thing that I was in South Africa a month ago now, it feels like a while. And it was just before the South African elections. And fascinating, everything worked. So, normally in South Africa, there's load shedding. And so there's big, long periods without electricity. And, then the traffic lights don't work. And it's just chaos. That period before election, everything was working. Everything was beautiful. Everything was lovely. So it's also interesting around those kind of country events that are happening to see how your consumers' behavior changes. I remember in lockdown in South Africa actually banned the sale of cigarettes and alcohol during lockdown. And so the underground sales of cigarettes and alcohol flourished. Like if you were a bootlegger of, people were making their own alcohol from pineapples and all sorts of stuff. You did so well during lockdown because of that rule, right? So it's also about understanding. I know we've got UK elections coming up. I'm not sure I've seen as drastic changes, although there are a lot of promises being made now as well, right? Everyone's making promises.
They do that here in Colombia, just reminding me about what you said in South Africa. During the elections, they ban the sale of alcohol.
Really? That's fascinating. Why?
To stop.
To make sure you stop protest. I thought it was to make sure you vote. Thought it's to make sure you're voting in your right mind.
Well, no, I think maybe, but I think it's to stop violent protests and things like that, I guess.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So yeah, anyway. I mean, all of those kind of things to take into account, right?
Yeah. And then at the moment, there's also, and you know me in sport, but there's some sporty thing. There's a lot of noise happening around.
Yeah, we've got the Euro football competition. The Euro's coming up I think this weekend. I think it starts, or today, in the international football competition, which I'm sure you're watching every game.
Is that the round ball, Alex? I don't know. Is it the round one?
Yeah, England are playing on Sunday.
Okay. But that changes behavior. People are going to be going to pubs more to watch that. There's going to be a behavior change, right? And so how does your marketing capitalize on that change? If you're talking about it in your marketing, no matter what your product is, you're probably going to resonate with people.
Yeah, and you just change your branding a little bit to be a bit more nationalistic, right? A few England flags on your product, in your designs, if it's catered for the audience that would be watching the football, that is.
That's true. Not for me.
Not for you, no. You see England, so why have England flags in?
You laugh at this. So because I'm South African, everyone assumes I know rugby, right? So since I've been living here, I make sure I stay up to date with rugby at least. So I know when we're playing and when, I know that the score is. And so I've been quite proud of myself that I can at least hold a high level conversation about rugby. But the other night I was sitting next to someone who then went into detail about the names of players in the South African rugby team in every single game for the last 10 years. It's like, in 98, the I don't know, some position. I can't remember the positions. I don't know what these things are. But he knew the name. He went, the big one. And like, I don't know. So now I'm like, oh, okay, I was totally lost. So I think, okay, I've got to go to the next level of studying now. I now need to know the names of every single player and the position they played. I thought I was doing well with scores.
I think that's pretty good, knowing the scores and knowing the shape of the ball.
I thought it was good, but it was not enough. I was way out of my league. And it was an English guy, but he knew the names of all the players in every, like, yeah, in the World Cup, this guy that held the trophy, and he's since died, and like he just knew everything about all the South African players. I was so out of my depth, like, okay.
I mean, there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time researching and paying attention and just consuming a lot of content around that particular subject. So, whilst you know a lot about marketing, and some people are like, whoa, she knows a lot about marketing, other people spend their time learning about rugby players.
Yes. So anyway, you would have had such a good laugh at me trying to keep up with the conversation. So I'm like clueless.
Well, I would have actually been no help. I don't know anything about rugby. I think I know 2 players. And that's it, really.
Awesome. Right. What else is happening at the moment that could change? That could be changing customer behavior.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, there's elections. So I heard somewhere that this year has got the most elections across the world of any year. So, that's quite a big economic shift.
Yeah, and I think there's also, I read something similar, and I read that there was not only are there more elections in this period than normal, there are more elections where the favorite, let's say, is right wing rather than center or left. So there's also not just the elections, it's the shift in the sentiment and mindset within countries and cultures. That makes a big difference.
I think so. And for example, the South African one, which I can talk to, it's the first time ever that there hasn't been a majority party win. So before 94, it was the National Party. After 94, it was the ANC. Always had more than 50%. This year, the highest was the ANC at 40%. And so there has to be a joint government for the first time ever. And it's pretty fascinating to see how that plays out. And again, from a marketing perspective, what does that mean, right? What does that mean for my consumers? What does it mean for the clients? Does it mean anything? It could mean nothing, but it's good just to have a little tick box and think about it.
Yeah, it's absolutely a consideration.
Yeah.
So what's your view on, I mean, because there's lots of events that are predictable, but there's also events that are not predictable, like this election. I guess it was, well, I think we knew the election was coming, but it was in the UK, but it was brought forward. But at the beginning of the year, doing an exercise to map out all of the different types of events or possible occasions related to, and not necessarily directly related to your customers, but that can have a wider effect, just so that you can have a viewpoint of the year. A lot of people are planning their marketing a year in advance. What's your viewpoint on that and the value of that?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. If you're doing budgeting, you should definitely take into account cycles. When we were budgeting for insurance, for example, we always budgeted more spend in the first 3 months of the year, because it meant more revenue, right? So because it was our best response months, those first 3, it meant more spend, more revenue. And then definitely we did July, August, minimal, like drop down because there was very little there, and then ramp up slowly again. So when you do your budgeting, that has to go along with your planning. And if you know about elections coming up and you've learned or test it out the first time and then see what the impact is, and then going forward you'll know, right, to put that in your budget, whether it has a negative or positive impact. I think things like natural disasters are harder. If you remember, well, before I met you, actually, I was starting a personal accident campaign in Turkey, a TV campaign, and the week the ad started flighting, there was a major bus accident, and like 30, 40 people died. And so we had to pull the campaign because suddenly we looked very insensitive. And so that's our budget, like literally our budget was wiped out. We had to pull the campaign, we had to stop promoting because we looked very insensitive. So there are shocks to the system, let's say that, where you can't plan for. But if there's stuff you should definitely be looking at how you optimize Christmas. A lot of people with physical gifts, you should start that with from October, right? When the is it Black Friday sales? Like there's those kind of things that start, where there's consumer splurging happening, right? Like there's a general trend of people buying more. If you don't budget to be more visible at that time, you're silly.
No, absolutely. You need to take advantage of those moments from either previous knowledge or best estimate or guess, or I'd rather say informed decision that is going to be affecting your sales volume. And it's important, as I said, we said earlier, capitalize or pull back on that moment, depending on what effect you believe it will have on your business.
Yeah. And so that planning, I mean, you should be doing budget planning anyway. So that planning cycle is to add that in and then look at how that affects your messaging, because your messaging should be tailored. You can't expect to run the same messaging throughout. That's not capitalizing, right? You need to, like you said, if it's this football season, adding a little flag or adding a little picture of a ball attached to your logo, whatever it is, just to get things interesting and to make it relevant is so important.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Completely agree. Seasonality plays a big part in what we do. Absolutely, especially in consumer goods, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, actually, in everything, and services.
No, it's everything. It's everything. Think about coaching, right? I think coaching is also a January thing. I think January, when people are looking to, courses, better myself, all that fitness, if you're not optimizing on January, new year, new you. And yes, okay, I see people come out saying, oh, that's a farce. It shouldn't be that. Okay, you're right. It shouldn't be, but it is.
It's like what was it you did? You did a talk about should.
Yes, should. Maybe it shouldn't. Maybe people shouldn't only try in January to be healthy, but guess what they do? So you can sit on your high horse going, I'm not going to optimize on January because I think it's not good for people. Guess what? Someone else is going to, and you're going to lose out.
And we shouldn't be talking about Christmas until December, but if people are thinking about Christmas, as you're saying, as early as October.
Yeah. After September's back to school, right? So August, September, you can be talking back to school if your product is appropriate. So what's the back to school kind of stuff? Then you've got your whole Halloween, Thanksgiving kind of period. And then, there's lots that you can optimize over a year by just tailoring your message. Not forgetting, though, that you need to also look at your personal life stages of your customers. So that's like overlaid, because in there, you've got your customer's personal life stage and where they are in that journey, which may or may not align to your overall calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Brilliant.
I think
Top
that's all
3
good.
tips.
Look ahead to the year for schedule events that are coming in to understand how that may affect your marketing and your messaging. Like, for example, the football competition. Okay, in this month we're going to be putting England flags on. Oh, if you're advertising in the UK, England flags on all over your marketing. Look back at your previous years if you have data to understand, did you see any peaks in certain periods within the year? If so, redo that. What was the third one? Third one was your customer life cycle. So where are they in also depending on your product, if it is a insurance product that you're saying, then maybe they're having a baby. That changes absolutely everything. And there are tools around that can predict these things, which is kind of scary, but very helpful.
That's true. That's true. Awesome. Love those tips, Alex. Thank you so much. Right. I'm sure we will pick this up again because it's really a fascinating topic. Maybe we can get a guest speaker to come and talk to us a little bit about some of these tools. Maybe that's a nice one for dig into. But talk to you soon. Have a great week.
You too. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.